While our people were engaged in celebrating the Jubilee of the Queen, they little thought that the terrible crime of murder had been committed against the Queen's laws in the midst of one of the quietest and most prosperous settlements of the island. But so it was. The body of Mary Tuplin, daughter of Mr. John Tuplin of Margate, was found yesterday at the bottom of the Southwest River, sunk by a large stone bound to it by a rope rein, with 2 bullets in the head. She was only 16 years of age, a fair young thing, but already she had loved not wisely but too well. The facts connected with the terrible affair, as obtained by the Examiner's reporter, are as follows. Some few weeks ago, it was noticed that Miss Tuplin was enceinte. When questioned, she said her seducer was William Millman, a young man about 19 years of age, the son of Mr. John Millman, farmer of Burlington. Young Millman denied the girl's story and refused to make any reparation. The girl, it is said, took Millman's repudiation very hardly. On Tuesday afternoon, while she was alone in the house with her sisters, her father and her brothers being absent at the funeral of one of her brothers, she told her sister about having to see Millman that night to settle the matter finally. About 9 o'clock on the same night, she was sitting in the house, after she had taken off the good clothes worn during the funeral ceremony that day. All at once, she rose from her seat and left the house without saying anything to any person present. She did not return. That night, however, her parents and relatives became alarmed. They began to fear that something was wrong, as she had left the house bareheaded and with very little clothing on. A search was commenced, and on Friday it was suggested that they search the nearby branch of the Southwest River. Mr. Thomas Cameron, while resting on the bank, found thereon a white cotton handkerchief with the letter M worked on it. This strengthened the suspicion of the searchers that the body of the young girl was not far off, probably in the river. On Monday between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the body of the missing girl was found. The body was found in about 4¼ feet of water. Around the waist was tied a rope, attached to which was a large stone. Among the witnesses examined were the girl's parents and several others. One witness, a little brother of the murdered girl, testified to seeing a man lying in the woods with his hat over his eyes and ferns sticking out of his shirt collar, and others stated they had seen a man cross the river towards Tuplin's in a boat, about 7 o'clock in the evening of the same day. William Millman and his friend Thomas Bryanton were arrested. About Kensington Station, and in fact all along the line of the railway, the brutal murder of the betrayed girl, Mary Tuplin, is the only topic of conversation. Go where one will, he will find the people gathered in crowds discussing the details of the terrible affair. The scene on the shore on Monday night, while the inquest was in process, will never be forgotten by those who witnessed it. There could not have been less than 200 people present, and not less than 100 carriages. The entire countryside, as well as many people from Summerside and other places, drove out to the scene. There on the shore lay the body of the ill-fated young girl. After the inquest had been concluded, at about 2 o'clock in the morning, the body of the unfortunate girl was interred in Margate Cemetery. As we now know, Mary's body was buried at 2 a.m. that night, but her head was severed, placed in a box, and carried to the coroner's office in Charlottetown. Millman is a young man about 19 or 20 years of age, mild and rather good-looking, and does not look like one who could have committed an atrocious crime as that for which he is arrested. Bryanton, arrested as accessory, is about 45 years of age and not very prepossessing in appearance.
I know William Millman. On Wednesday, he told me to tell that I was with him on Tuesday night at Painter's Line, between Richard Painter's and John Millman's line. I told him I would. I was not with him on Tuesday evening, or any other evening. He came again, on Thursday, and told me to stick to what he had told me the day before. I told him I would not. On Thursday, I went with him to Michael Reddy's. He asked me at Reddy's house to swear that I was with him on Tuesday night. He went into the house, and I held the horse. It was before we came to the house he asked me to swear.
I knew Mary Tuplin. I saw her last on the day of her brother's funeral. I was upstairs with her alone. I asked her if the story about her was true. She said, "Can't you see?" I asked her who did she blame. She said William Millman. I asked her what she was going to do about it, and she said he was coming there that night. I asked her how long since it happened, and she replied since New Year's. She told it to me as a secret and told me not to tell.
She said Thomas Bryanton and his wife had come to see my brother John, who was sick. And Mrs. Bryanton told her that William Millman wanted to see her on the road below Father's gate, that she went out, and he came down the road, that he said to her, "Is this story true about you, Mary?" She said, "Yes, it is." And then he said, "Why didn't you send me word before?" She replied that she did not know his address and could not see him, and didn't my sister write you? He said he got a letter with her name to it, but he thought it was some of the young fellows trying to fool him, that his people had not heard it yet, and if his mother would hear it, he was afraid she would go out of her mind again. That he said he hadn't much time to talk to her that night, but she was to meet him on Tuesday night, and he would do the best he could for her, as he would not like to be the cause of bringing any young girl to destruction.
One of the most novel sights ever seen on the streets of Surrey was witnessed on Wednesday last. It consisted of a horse and cart loaded with dead bears. First, there was the old she-bear. Alongside her lay 3 cubs, each of them as large as a good-sized dog. Mr. Costello deserves credit for his pluck in ridding the country of these destructive pests.
The examiner's report of the evidence in detail has unfortunately been miscarried. We learned that the most important evidence adduced during the day was that of Millman's father, who it is said swore in the first place that his son was at home throughout the evening of the murder. Then he fainted away. After he recovered, he was again placed on the stand, and he admitted that his previous statement was incorrect. The truth was, he said, that he was away from home on that evening, and that when he returned at 10:30 or 11 o'clock, he found his son sitting up in the house. It is reported that a pistol has been found in Millman's granary. The place where the tragedy was done has, it is reported, also been found. It is in the wood, about 30 yards from where the handkerchief which led to the discovery of the body was found. Millman's mother has, it is stated, been crazed by reason of the affair.
I sincerely thank the fire brigade and the citizens generally for the way they worked at the fire on the morning of the 6th of July in saving my furniture with so little damage. G. Jury.
I will be in Charlottetown every market day for the next 10 days and will be prepared to purchase a number of horses as usual. A good price for a good horse. James Keegan.
He is brought to town and placed in jail. Great excitement and cries of "Lynch him! Hang him!" heard. In the night he sleeps in number 11 in the basement, one of the strongest in the jail, being of stone and planked inside. He is not ironed yet, such a course not being considered necessary.
I believe that was the stone, which was tied to the body. The rope was like this. That's it. I was not present when the clothes were taken off the body. I've seen the prisoner at my house only once. I can't hardly account for the time. It was about last New Year's, the New Year's before the murder. My wife and daughter Mary and some of the children were in the house at the same time. He was in the kitchen. I left the kitchen after 9 o'clock. After I left, I went to bed. No person was in the kitchen but William Millman and my daughter, Mary. I thought Mary went to bed about 12 o'clock. I woke up and called her, and he went off and she came upstairs. I did not see Millman in my house after that.
The demand for the examiner since the beginning of the trial has so greatly increased that although we have published hundreds of extra papers, the supply is not equal to demand. The papers can be obtained each evening at the Diamond Bookstore, H.A. Harvey's, etc., or from the many newsboys of the streets.
I was at the lecture at Clifton. I arrived home at 20 minutes to 11. I heard a pistol shot and a scream or two, or a continuation of one, in which there was a perceptible lowering of the voice. After hearing the shot, I commenced to trot the horse, and the noise would perhaps prevent my hearing a second shot. It was very calm that night. A bright, clear night. I could not hear any word. Only just a screech.
The interest in the Millman trial increases as the case progresses. Every day the courtroom is crowded with people of all classes, each one eagerly drinking in the details of the evidence. The crush is terrific. Yesterday afternoon, one of the spectators fainted and had to be removed, and this morning a boy named Taylor was badly injured.
When I arrested Millman, I got him at his father's home. He made no attempt to escape. I had my breakfast there with him.
He was standing at the counter, and there was a clerk at the counter, and there were cartridges between them. The cartridges were revolver cartridges. I did not see other goods on the counter before him. I thought he was looking at the cartridges. He was dressed in a dark suit, brown straw hat with a cord on it. Afterwards, I saw the same person with Coulson, and I asked Coulson who he was. Coulson replied, "Will Millman."
That's my revolver. The prisoner got the revolver from me. He asked me what I'd take for the revolver. I told him I'd take no less than $3.50 or $4 for it. This was at our house. He came down to our house that night, played the fiddle for a spell, and when he was going away, asked me whether I'd let him have the revolver. He said he had no money, but he wanted to shoot a dog belonging to William Campbell, and after he had done so, he would see whether or not he would buy her. I gave her to him. The footprints are very important in the detection of criminals. All detectives know something about footprints. Even if you went to Halifax, you might find one who knew a little about them. Why, even Millman's naked foot is larger than the track. Now, gentlemen, I leave my client with you.
Have we traced the crime home to any particular person? I think we have. And the person to whom we have traced it is the prisoner in the dock, William Millman.
For a second or two, the prisoner, who held his white handkerchief to his face from the time he entered the dock, seemed dazed. Then he fell as if he had been struck by a thunderbolt. And seemingly lifeless he remained, half sitting, half leaning against the side of the dock. The courtroom quickly cleared, and the unfortunate young man was laid on a seat. All day yesterday, and this forenoon, the more alarming reports were current concerning the condition of Millman. One story, afloat yesterday, was to the effect that during Saturday night he burst a blood vessel and was slowly bleeding to death. Last night and this morning, the report was in everybody's mouth that he was dead. In order to get to the bottom of these stories, the Examiner's reporter called at the jail today and interviewed Mr. Harvey on the subject. From him, the reporter learned that Millman, beyond suffering from a cold and feeling somewhat gloomy over the verdict, was in his usual health. Yesterday he ate but little. Millman made a desperate attempt to escape from prison yesterday. The jailer had just laid the teapot on the table and was in the act of placing the basket on the floor, preparatory of removing the provisions therefrom, when Millman, who had been standing in front of the fire with his hands behind his back, sprang forward and dealt him a terrible blow on the right side of the head with a large wine bottle which he held in his hand. Fortunately for the jailer, he wore a thick fur cap at the time, and the blow did not have the desired effect, only stunning him for a few moments. As soon as Mr. Harvey realized what had happened, he grappled with Millman, and in the struggle which ensued, the basket containing the provisions was upset, and the preserves spilled about the cell floor and upon the clothing of Mr. Harvey. Millman passed out through the large iron gateway across the hall, which he also tried to shut against the jailer but failed, out into the yard. By this time, some of the debtors confined to the jail came to Mr. Harvey's assistance, and after a brisk chase around the yard, they captured Millman and returned him to his cell.
I do most earnestly declare that notwithstanding the circumstances pointing against me, I am not guilty of the crime for which I have been convicted. That I met the deceased girl for the first time in my life at a party at her sister's, for which an admission fee of 25 cents was charged on the 31st of December, 1886. I called at her father's house a few days afterwards and saw her, and from that time I did not again see her until the evening of Sunday, the 26th of June, 1887, when I saw her for a short time on the roadside, in the presence of other persons, below her father's house. And this was the third and last time I ever met her.
William Millman was hanged in the jail yard this morning for the murder of Mary Pickering Tuplin. During last night, Millman did not sleep very well, and this morning he was early astir. He was remarkably cool and collected, and spent most of his time praying with his spiritual advisor. He also wrote 2 or 3 letters to friends. I stood where I could see Millman's face before the covering was put on. He glanced out of the window. His cell looks toward the east, and the sun shone on his face, throwing into strong relief the bars of the window. But he seemed not to see them. There was a faraway look on his face, like to that which seems to rest upon the face of the dead. Perhaps it only may have been the earnest gazing of a man who looks out upon the world for the last time. He then stooped down so they might bandage his eyes. At 7 minutes past 8, Sheriff Curtis gave the signal to the hangman. The latter touched the lever, the trap parted in the center, and the doomed man was launched into space. At 8:10, they reported him unconscious, with intermittent beating of the pulse. At 8:11, pulse very faint. At 8:19.5, pulse stopped beating, and life declared extinct.
One of these days, all will be known. Oh my God, I do look forward to that day. Now, there is left me to die. O Lord Jesus Christ, to thee I cling, in the hour of death, and in the day of judgment. Dear Savior, deliver me.
Mary Tuplin's skull remained at the coroner's office for 129 years. The coroner's office became a pharmacy, and eventually the box found its way into storage with other items from the defunct business. In 2014, one of Tuplin's distant relatives located the box and arranged for a proper burial. On August 21st, 2016, her skull was reunited with the rest of her body in Margate Cemetery. All of the people who attended the New Year's party where William and Mary met are dead. So is everyone who packed the courthouse for the trial, who dragged the river, and who crowded at the edge of it when Mary was found. And so are all of their children. One of these days, all will be known. That day is still in the future.